sido cometidos por Pablo Escobar dentro.
I met Pablo Escobar down in Colombia.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to discuss about infamous Medellín Cartel. But instead of focusing solely on Pablo Escobar, our spotlight is on a figure often overshadowed in the shadows, Gustavo Gaviria. Could it be possible that he was the real mastermind behind the cartel's success? Gustavo, the cousin and right-hand man of Pablo Escobar, held immense authority in the background while assisting in the management of the Medellín Cartel, although El Patrón was the leader of the Medellín Cartel. But arguably Gustavo Gaviria was the true mastermind. Since he was the real brains, we really wanted to keep Gustavo alive, according to Scott Murphy, a former DEA agent who looked into the Medellín Cartel in its last years. He was well aware of the labs, the locations of the chemicals, the routes for shipment, and the distribution centers in both Europe and the United States. The Medellín Cartel controlled the cocaine trade from 1976 to 1993. Pablo Escobar, the primary boss of the business, also garnered a lot of attention. However, Gustavo managed the empire's finances in the background, at a time when the cartel could bring in $4 billion annually. But who was Gustavo Gaviria, the cousin of Pablo Escobar and the mysterious person responsible for a large portion of the Medellín Cartel's prosperity? On December 25, 1946, Gustavo Gaviria was born. His cousin was born on December 1, 1949, which was almost precisely 3 years later. The lads grew up in the Colombian town of Envigado in close proximity. According to Mark Bowden, the author of Killing Pablo, said the hunt for the world's greatest outlaw claims that Pablo Escobar and Gustavo Gaviria were both middle class and had well-educated parents, which made their decision to drop out of school and pursue a life of crime deliberate and kind of surprising. In Medellín, Pablo started out as a small-time criminal, according to Bowden. He and Gustavo collaborated on several small projects together. The cousins robbed movie theater box offices and took tires and automobiles. They also took gravestones from cemeteries and demanded money for them. Gradually, they advanced from stealing tombstones to capturing live individuals, including an industrialist who they kidnapped and held hostage. The illicit activities of the cousins were noticed, and Pablo Escobar and Gustavo were both arrested in the 1970s. After that arrest, everything was different. The cousins switched their attention to cocaine, which was a greater reward than the ransom they could obtain from tombstones. Escobar and Gustavo essentially built everything together after their arrest. It would be nothing compared to what they had done before. The demand for cocaine in the US had surged dramatically by the 1980s. He started smuggling coca paste into Colombia, refining it there before shipping it north on mules to be sold in the US. Without a doubt, Escobar was the operations boss. However, Gustavo was in charge of the cocaine exports and financing behind the scenes. Former DEA officer Javier Penilla claimed that Pablo Escobar's cousin was the brains of the cartel, having followed the drug lord from 1988 until his murder in 1993. Each cousin had a unique set of skills that they employed in various combinations. Professor Duncan Cruz clarified that Pablo Escobar concentrated on the violence associated with the cocaine trade. His magnetism encouraged his horde of hitmen, or sicarios. Violence threatened anyone who defied Escobar's orders. But Gustavo did not panic when one of the cartel's primary trading routes, from the Bahamas to Florida, was interfered with. He became imaginative. Gustavo employed legal cargo ships carrying appliances instead of flying cocaine north. Cocaine was even soaked into blue jeans by the traffickers. Chemists extracted the medication for this. Pilots who were transporting the drug flew one way north, abandoned their aircraft in the middle of the ocean, and swam to waiting ships. A kilogram of cocaine could be produced for roughly $1,000, but it could fetch up to $70,000 on the black market. Because of this, pilots who were transporting the drug flew one way north, abandoned their aircraft in the middle of the ocean, and swam to waiting ships. The Medellín Cartel was able to earn up to $60 million a day by the mid to 1980s. 80% of the cocaine supply in the United States was controlled by Pablo Escobar and Gustavo Gaviria at the height of their power. Gustavo Gaviria possessed global connections for the distribution of cocaine. The Colombian government and the Medellín Cartel were at open conflict by the 1990s. Pablo Escobar made an effort to give himself and his company a look of legality. He turned into a Robin Hood for Colombia, constructing houses for the impoverished, a soccer stadium, and schools. He was elected to the Colombian parliament in 1982 and had aspirations of being president one day. Pablo desired dominance, and Gustavo was a money-hungry man. However, because of his involvement in the drug trafficking, Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla expelled Escobar from the legislature, threatening to pursue the Medellín Cartel. The war against drug dealers like Gustavo Gaviria and Escobar began after Bonilla's death. The Medellín Cartel retaliated throughout the course of the following 10 years by targeting government facilities, killing politicians, and detonating planes. A major blow was delivered by the Colombian government on August 11, 1990. Gustavo Gaviria was slain by the police when they found him in a posh suburb of Medellín. Pablo consistently maintained that he had been abducted, tortured, and killed. Pablo Escobar's life would end with the passing of Gustavo Gaviria. Escobar's control over the organization started to wane without his business partner. The trafficker in drugs fled. Pablo Escobar was also assassinated by Colombian police on December 2, 1993, much like Gustavo.